Most people with diabetes are taught to check their blood sugars, take their insulin if necessary, and eat a balanced meal for breakfast, and then just go about your day, right? And you kind of just deal with blood sugars as they arise. But what if I told you that the first 10 minutes of your day could dramatically improve blood sugars throughout the day? In fact, could rewire your brain, your biology, and as a direct result, your blood sugars to be easier throughout the day without insulin changes. Let me show you exactly what I've been doing for the last 10 days because this routine has saved my blood sugars. I mean, it really has made a significant impact, and it can do the same for you. What really, though, has been shocking is something that has to do with your feet. That if you stick around, you're going to see why the doctors have been wrong about this one. And this simple shift has actually made blood sugars less of a pain in the neck. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name's Matt Van de Vecht. I am a certified master fitness trainer and nutritionist, but I also live with type 1 diabetes. I've written a book on the topic, became a bestseller overnight, and truly I want you to live a better life with diabetes without it getting in the way. So I experiment on myself so that you don't have to. So let's dive into today. Now, I actually asked my daughter, who's 3.5, I said, what should I talk about in this week's episode? And she said, trees. And I said, okay, what can we work with this? I'm gonna try to figure out how to make this episode about trees. I thought, touch a tree is kind of like an insult. Like, you need to get outside and touch a tree. I thought, that's actually what we're gonna talk about because I've been, not trees, but grass, touching grass. And this is a concept known as grounding, one of the topics I want to cover today. But before we do, I'm going to lay out the routine that dramatically improved my blood sugars. Now, this all started on my birthday not too long ago. On my birthday, I like to start something new, right? It's the start of a new year, and it's a new opportunity for me to reset, build something new, make progress, whatever it is. And I thought, you know what? I've been really stressed out recently, just kind of high strung. I'm a type A, type 1, and I need to chill out for a minute. So on my birthday, I said, you know, we're doing two things. Turning off the alarm clock. Alarm clock can be jarring, right? It wakes you up from a sleep and all of a sudden the day is starting. But more than that, I wanted to take time to be intentional. I wanted to think about the year ahead and how far I've come, what I've accomplished, what's new, and what I want things to look like. So second stage of that morning was building an intentional morning routine. Now, typically I wake up, brush teeth, raise all the windows, all the shades, right? Let some sunlight in. And then I get into Devo and I drink water, make sure I don't forget anything here. I prep my breakfast, take my pre-bolus, and sometimes flip through my phone all the time. Actually, I'm kind of addicted to my phone, but I scroll through my phone while I eat breakfast and then hop over to work. And that's been the routine for years, you know, plus or minus a few things, but very similar. So I thought it's time for a revamp on my morning routine. And more recently in our private coaching programs, I invite experts to come in, guest experts who are knowledgeable about things that I am not. And so I was like, hey, found this guy who is an expert on breathing. And you'd think breathing is something we all know how to do kind of automatically, right? I mean, quite literally is part of your automatic system for your body. And I thought, you know what, let's have him on. Long story short, we all learned something new. Fantastic topic. If you'd like to hear that, actually, maybe we'll release it on the podcast because I think it's something that a lot of people need to know about. But I figured I'm going to give this thing a try, these breathing exercises, and learn a lot about how to regulate my nervous system. And it turns out stress, as we know, can impact blood sugars and does quite a bit through elevated cortisol levels in our bloodstream. But in addition to that, when your nervous system is dysregulated, I found that I'm just always on edge. I'm less pleasant to be around. My blood sugars don't respond as well. I'm more insulin resistant, right? And so I needed to take a second to just breathe. So that's exactly what I did. I took a minute, well, more than a minute, 10 minutes, and incorporated breathing intentionally, taking time to do some slow breaths into a morning routine that would serve me well. And I almost forgot to mention that the opposite of nervous system regulation is nervous system dysregulation. I'll give you an extreme example of that in my Ironman races, because I do Ironman. My body gets really stressed out, cortisol peaks, and even though I think I am relaxed, it shows on my blood sugars. I'll go from 95 to 210 in an hour with no extra carbs. Like wondering what the heck just happened. That's what happened. It's my nervous system freaking out. So if you've ever wanted an example of what that can look like, you've probably seen blood sugars go up in a high stress environment. A meeting, an argument, a race day or competition, you're gonna get into a test, And I think it's important to recognize the benefits of regulating our nervous system. It's important to recognize, of course, the threat or the potential threat that a dysregulated nervous system can pose, but to recognize we have the power to regulate our nervous system. There are things that we can do to set ourselves up for success, and I hope this video is starting to make that clear to you. Now, context. There's a couple things going on in my life when I started this. One is that I had a neck injury that had severely limited my mobility to the point where they had to take x-rays. They thought I might have some permanent damage in my spine. It's pretty bad. Couldn't move my head at all. As you can tell, I can move again. Back to me and back to my exercises. But part of my new routine is I wanted to incorporate mobility as well. So we look at breathing exercises for nervous system regulation, some mobility to engage muscle tissue, loosen up the joints for the day. I'm getting to a point now in life where I actually have to think about joint mobility, and I'm like, I don't love that, but here we are. I can't just wake up and sprint down the street, I got to warm up and loosen up a bit before I do that. So that's something new that I want to make sure I am taking care of my body, and something that is always top of mind. I learned when I was trying to become a certified master fitness trainer, and have heard many times from many experts since then, is that if you don't use it, you'll lose it when it comes to muscle tissue. If you do not engage your muscle tissue often, your body deprioritizes it, and you actually will lose the capability to build strength. So make sure you are using those muscles. It's better than just glucose uptake, which it's also fantastic for, and we'll get to that in just a second, why it's helpful for blood sugars. But incorporating mobility in my morning routine, some animal flow yoga, some stretching, some body weight squats and push-ups, just enough to get the blood pumping, has been fantastic. So we've got breathing, we've got exercise. Another one, as I mentioned, nature, right? My daughter said I should talk about trees. So I don't have a tree, but I do have grass. I have grass in our backyard, and it has been actually really nice to have bare feet on my grass. Now, the reason this is nice, it's called grounding. You should look this up, and I will give you the benefits behind this in just a second. But ultimately, getting your bare skin to touch nature. Touch a tree, hug it, I don't care. I walk on my lawn, and that's where I do my mobility and breathing exercises, and that's enough. There's an electrical current from the earth that we actually can take into our bodies when it's not impeded by shoes or by rubber, right? If you didn't know that, we actually have electrical currents running out of our body. We're great conductors, which is also why electricity can pose such a big threat to us when there's too much of it, right? Because our body will slurp it up and then you're overpowered and then you're done. So you got to stay away from, electrical outlets and lightning storms. But in small doses, in the correct amounts, it's actually a good thing. So from Earth, it can be a good thing. Now, be careful. Don't go sticking your finger in sockets and shocking yourself. This is not medical advice, obviously, but go walk in some grass, go hug a tree, just get outside. It's actually good for you. Now, the last piece that I wanted to incorporate in this was actually a sense of gratitude, which sounds silly and woo-woo and kind of overrated, but truthfully, I forget how good life is. And I don't mean that I have a better life than anybody else, but rather that we all have things to be grateful for. Now, this is hard to identify when you're in the thick of it, when you're going through some hard times, or even just any day with type 1 diabetes. You're like, life could be better if I didn't have to deal with this disease, right? I get that. But there's always something to be grateful for. There's always a silver lining. And when I leaned into that, when I truly just thought about what is going right, what I could be grateful for, my goodness, my whole perspective changed. So instead of being stressed and worried, and this feeds into the nervous system regulation, I got to just be present, to engage in life itself, not in trying to worry about the future and what's tomorrow going to hold, but what's happening right now. And in that moment, I realized birds were chirping. I could hear the wind in the trees. There's a bird that just chirped. Oh my gosh, did you guys hear that? I hope you did. That's so cool. But there's so much to be grateful for. And our brain, it's called your RAS, your reticular activating system. It deprioritizes things that are mundane, because if you were truly to take in all of the things around you all the time, you would be so overwhelmed. So our brain goes, hey, look, you don't need to know like 95% of this stuff. All you need to know is the stuff that you're focused on, like your job, your family, and blood sugars, you know? But because of that, we miss out on so much of what life has to offer. I don't hear the birds 9 out of 10 days. I don't even know. I didn't know they were there. So when we take a moment to just sit in silence, to find reasons to be grateful for them, my goodness, life just lightens up. Now, I pulled up my notes because this is something that I did want to dive a bit deeper into with you guys, because this is something that I have seen a significant improvement on blood sugars. I kid you not, and I'll put it on screen. I spent 2.5 weeks at 99% time in range, which it's not unheard of for me, but the fact that it happened on accident is the crazy part. I spent 7 consecutive days at 100% time in range. Now, there are other factors to this. I use blood sugar formulas. Obviously, all the principles in this book, the blood sugar freedom formula, I use daily. That's how I stay above 90% as like a standard. But in addition to that, I made this shift, and that day, blood sugars got easier. That day, when I went through this morning routine, 10 minutes of my time. So I want to dive into a few of the reasons behind why that might be possible and why you might consider these things, but feel free to make adjustments. You know, some people like to add cold exposure. I used to do ice baths and all that. I might get back into it. It's hard. It sucks, but that's also the reason you do it. When you do hard things, you actually build that muscle in the back of your head, your, what is it, anterior mid-cingulate cortex. So when you do hard things that you don't want to do, it grows, and they call it your willpower muscle. It actually gets stronger, so you're more likely to do things that you don't want to do, and therefore it's kind of a snowball effect, right? So maybe you add cold showers, right? I haven't done that yet. Right now I'm kind of in the down-regulating. I don't want to up-regulate my nervous system. I want to down-regulate. I'm already stressed out. I have too many things happening. We have like 36 websites that I just had to rebuild. I kid you not. And they're all type 1 diabetes related. I actually do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you guys have no idea about, with our own business, with nonprofits, with speaking. You know, it's so much fun, but whew, it's a lot. So with that being said, a couple of my notes. So number 1, the nervous system regulation piece with breathing, all right? So light breath work and mobility flow, and this is both going to tie hand in hand, there you go. Most of the things that I'm doing are intentionally to down-regulate my nervous system. But it's going to help me shift from sympathetic or fight or flight, right, to parasympathetic, your rest and digest. There's 2 versions of your nervous system, right? It's going to help reduce morning cortisol. So you wake up, most of us are insulin resistant upon waking. This is why most of us, not why, but most of us do experience higher insulin need first thing in the morning. This is also tied to your dawn phenomenon. You might have heard that term before. It's your liver dumping glucose into your body to get you ready for the day. It's not a bad thing. Non-diabetics experience it too. They just have a working pancreas, which is kind of unfair. But you might experience dawn phenomenon. You might also experience feet on the floor. These are 2 different things. If you'd like a video on that, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll spend some time explaining those, because if you don't know which one you're experiencing, you actually might be setting yourself up for failure, and that might be why you have roller coaster blood sugars throughout the day, or why you go high and get stuck with higher blood sugars. So let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a deep dive episode on that one. I talk to it with probably half of the private clients I take on with type 1, because most people struggle with this. I used to as well. I used to wake up high and my fasting blood sugar sucked, and it would just set me up for a rough day every day. It's the worst. This is one of those things that if you fix this one trigger in the morning, the rest of the day kind of falls into place. Similar to today with down-regulating the nervous system, different though, because it is insulin management. So again, if you'd like to see a deep dive on that topic, I got to see enough comments that it's like it makes sense to take time and focus on that. But If enough of you find that interesting, let me know and add what kind of questions you might have surrounding that. Happy to give you guys a resource if it's beneficial. But looking at the morning blood sugars, typically we're more insulin resistant. So why would I want to add more cortisol to that if I'm feeling stressed out from work or life, right? So instead, I'm trying to chill out, relax my nervous system so that I'm not adding cortisol to that puzzle piece. And again, by relaxing and reducing cortisol, I am therefore also reducing insulin resistance, because cortisol leads to insulin resistance, which leads to higher insulin needs. And if you don't match those higher insulin needs, you will end up with higher blood sugars. So 2 types of breathing I want to cover real quick. One that I've been focusing on is just slow in, slow out, all through your nose. Don't open your mouth, just slow through your nose if you can. If your nose is stuffy, like sometimes mine is, blow your nose first. Or you can do some aggressive breaths and it'll clear out pretty quick. But slow in, slow out, as relaxed as possible. The relaxation actually comes from your exhale. So if your exhale is fast, you will wake up, you will get amped up. So even if you have a slow inhale, but then it's a fast exhale, you're gonna wake up quick. It jolts your system, right? If it's a slow exhale, preferably through your nose, it really slows you down. It's amazing. Second one, if you need to take your mind off of something that's making you anxious, box breathing is super helpful, which could look like 4 seconds in, hold your breath for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, hold your breath for 4 seconds. So you're drawing a box with your breaths. 4 in, 4 out, or sorry, 4 in, hold, 4 out, hold, and continue. It also helps to visualize it, because then you take your mind off of whatever is making you nervous, like a low blood sugar, provided you've treated with sugar in time for it, right? But that's a big benefit, and that's one of the ways that you can use breathing exercises. Now, grounding and barefoot touch with nature. It could be your hands too if you're good at handstands, I guess, but ultimately getting your bare skin to the earth. It can be dirt, it can be grass, it can be trees. Grass is the most commonly used, but a couple benefits behind it, and also kind of why it's helpful. So emerging science did show that it reduces inflammation. Actually, and inflammation is one of the huge correlations with a lot of disease and disease progression. So keep that in mind as we go through this video. Stabilizes your circadian cortisol rhythm as well. Studies are showing that. From 2012, actually, I found this in my notes. 2012, a study showed grounding can normalize daily cortisol rhythm, and that's actually pretty cool. Because again, cortisol, not that cortisol is bad, you actually need it for functioning, but it typically leads to higher insulin resistance. So we don't want to make matters worse by that, right? So I combine the barefoot piece with my mobility and do kind of a yoga-ish flow. I don't do yoga, but it probably looks like I'm doing yoga. To be completely honest with you, I look like, I don't know how to put this other than I'm just gonna say it. I've never done drugs in my life, but it probably looks like I'm high. Like I'm just doing these weird flowy movements with my arms and my legs. And it's relaxing. I'm breathing in through my nose and listening to the birds chirping. Honestly, I feel like this is what I would look like if I were 75 and retired. I would just be the kook who like is in his own world and listens to birds and gardens and I don't know. Anyways, that's just me. But I'm moving, and I'm also using the movements to engage muscle tissue, but also to stretch. So that's why I've got the weird like full arm flowy movements, because I'm stretching my ribs, my lats, my chest, all the muscles that I've worked out from weightlifting the day before. So my upper body, my lower body is loosening up while I'm engaging muscle tissue. So it's a great stretch, gets the joints going, get all those cracks out of your knees, and then ultimately also we're warming up the muscle tissue, because muscles can soak up glucose independent of insulin. Now this is not a great example because it's very low demand on my muscles, but I'm doing body weight squats, couple push-ups here and there, just getting the blood flowing, waking the system up, so to speak. This is going to help in lowering blood glucose in the moment. So if you have a higher fasting blood glucose, this can help with that. but also I'm priming a little bit of extra insulin sensitivity for breakfast. Because for most people, breakfast can lead to spikes more so than lunch and dinner because of that extra insulin resistance in the morning. So I want to give myself the best possible chance at enjoying my favorite breakfast, which if you guys want a walkthrough of what I eat in a day, let me know. I don't think I've ever done one of those videos. I might have, but I have some favorites, I would say, that I typically go for. I don't eat the same thing every day, but breakfast is the closest one of like I eat mostly the same thing every day because I just like having that automated. And I found what works great for blood sugars, but also for health with micronutrients as well. Now, one that I forgot to mention is actually first light exposure. Now, there's a gentleman named Andrew Huberman who goes into this in his podcast. Excellent resource. And ultimately, the point behind first light exposure is that when you wake up, get outside and just get the sun within your field of view. Do not look at the sun, okay? Hear me on this. You're not gonna burn your eyeballs, right? But I am facing sunrise. So the sun is coming from the east. I face east while I'm doing all of this. So my breathing exercises, mobility in the grass, doing all my stuff. I'm facing east to get my body to recognize, hey, the sun is up, it's time to wake up. And the reason this is helpful is that it actually helps to reset your circadian rhythm on that time. So if you do sleep in or you go to bed late, your circadian rhythm, or what makes you tired, makes you awake, can get a little bit off balance. Easy way to reset that, first light, first thing. Okay, so a couple of benefits from this and reasons you might do it. Natural sunlight, here's your framework, within 30 to 60 minutes of waking. So I'm out there within 5 to 10 minutes. I brush my teeth, drink some water, and get outside, okay? Why is that it anchors your circadian rhythm, like I was telling you about, improves mood, supports melatonin later. So that wake up in the morning means that your melatonin will naturally release at an appropriate bedtime. So you'll actually get tired when you're supposed to get tired, and it can boost insulin sensitivity. A lot of benefits from this one, which is why I'm tying all these together. And again, this is optimized for me. You might shift some things around. You might add cold exposure. You might take away, I don't know, breathing exercises, whatever reason, but make it yours. So one of the other pieces behind this, no sunglasses and no windows. So it has to be like nothing between you and the sun. Don't look at the sun, but just face the general direction of the sun. The reason this is important is that there's a filter with your windows, with sunglasses, with your car windshield, whatever it is, that break down the benefits a little bit. So just get outside. All right, a couple of the whys on mobility and movement. First of all, movement is medicine. You can't talk me out of that. It's one of the best things for diabetes, but it's also one of the best things for life. It will save your life if you are consistent in exercise, like actual exercise. I want to say the minimum was 250 minutes per week. Could be 150. I'll have to double check on that for you guys. But there's a study done where it literally will add 10 years to your life. Here's a not so fun fact. You get diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and the average across the board is that you lose 10 years of your life just with the diagnosis because of correlation. It's not causation. But if you exercise consistently, you get those 10 years right back. So pretty cool. Exercise is medicine. Now, that being said, with joint mobility, slow and functional movements, I'm building stability as well. I'm not trying to build strength. That's later in the day when I truly challenge my muscles with weights. But initially, I'm trying to build stability. So a couple examples that I do, and simple stuff too, like neck rolls is part of it, right? But I'm also doing scapular resets, hip openers, calf raises. I would encourage you to look up animal flow. I do some animal flow, which is more challenging, but I think it's fantastic if you can work your way up to it. It's a beginner animal flow maybe. And ultimately, this movement, in addition to waking my body up and being good for functional fitness and functional health, it's also boosting insulin sensitivity for breakfast, right? Muscles are uptaking glucose. Here's a fun fact. Before I do this whole 10-minute routine, I get to have a couple bites of fruit and my blood sugars don't go anywhere. That fruit goes straight into my muscle tissue. Like literally, I'll start at 95, end at 95. It's beautiful. I love it. With that being said, if you're starting at 90 and you don't eat anything, there's a possibility that you go low. I'm not saying it's going to happen, just be aware of your blood sugars, right? Be aware of your surroundings, especially as you get into new things. Now, the big side benefit behind all of this, like I mentioned at the beginning, I do focus on gratitude as well. I also have like prayer time throughout my morning and all that. But for the gratitude piece, it really sets the intention for the day of just like, no matter what happens, there's some silver lining I can find. And having that foundation first thing in the day has made a big difference where I'm less emotionally reactive. So when things do inevitably go wrong, I'm less likely to freak out. I'm able then to just take a breath. It's all going to be okay. Like, it really does help to put things in perspective where it's like, this too shall pass, you know? So finding that way to ground not only your physical body, but your mental self as well, where it's like, hey, life is going to go on. Whatever I encounter today is not going to change that fact. And if it does, I won't be here to remember it. So it's going to be okay. Now, I do want to end with this before we get too deep into this, is that the nervous system regulation routine that I'm coming up. And by the way, if you guys are one of my private clients, I am going to build a protocol off of this. Don't you worry. You know that I love frameworks and protocols. So we will probably have a training on this that I will go a bit deeper into and help you guys work on yours. That being said, if you're not a private client, I do want you to see the big picture here. What is happening? Why are my blood sugars easier when I am incorporating these routines in my morning, which, by the way, take 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes. And if you don't, wake up 10 minutes earlier. If you can't do that, then something's wrong. Okay, you should have 10 minutes in your day. If you say, I'm too busy. Well, it's only going to get busier if you don't stop adding things to your plate. So it's time to take something out and replace it with this, probably. I don't know your life, though, so do your own thing. But that being said, nervous system regulation. Exercise, hydration. I didn't really talk about that, but I do have water with electrolytes first thing in the morning before I start this routine. So that's not new, so I didn't include it. But for you, it's important to know. I hydrated and then I went outside. First light, movement, grounding, intentional breathing, gratitude, a lot of stuff behind this, right? Those are optimizing my existing blood sugar formulas. Again, and I'll show you guys this page, right? The blood sugar freedom formula, this is the framework, this is the foundation of everything. You can't just like drink water and touch grass and your blood sugars are going to be perfect, right? There's a lot that goes into it. So I mean, we talk about that in the blood sugar freedom formula, but more so, I want you to understand it's about you finding what works for you. I'm not doing cold showers right now. Maybe I will soon. I don't know. I also did start to incorporate heavier weightlifting. I got back into running because my neck injury is better now, right? So there's a lot of correlation as well. It's not just the nervous system reset. I've been exercising more. My muscles overall are soaking out more glucose. I had to fine tune my basal rates, so I adjusted my insulin to match this new threshold. Everything is falling into place like a puzzle, and the more puzzle pieces that you're missing, the more difficult this becomes. However, regulating your nervous system will help everyone. I'm confident about that. I don't think there's any cons. There's nothing wrong with you learning how to take a moment to chill, to relax, to downregulate, to breathe, to be grateful, to drink water, move a little bit. Nothing wrong with that, right? You're not going to hurt yourself when you're meditating on peacefulness and you're like and smiling, right? That's a good thing. So I want you to start there, but also recognize it's not going to fix everything. It's only going to optimize what's already been set as your foundation. Because I had a strong foundation, I was able to optimize and reap the rewards of accidentally hitting 99% time in range for 2.5 weeks straight. And I think now I let loose and I'm at 98%. Okay, for the week, by the way. So these things are possible, but it does require we follow sequential order, right? You can't just do the optimizations. You have to lay the groundwork and actually set up your blood sugar formulas. And like with my clients, we set up their 80-20 blood sugar formulas. I'll put something in the description about that of this video as well, so you can check that out, see if there's any helpful resources that you might want to grab up. But set your foundations, optimize from those foundations to essentially automate what is most important to you. I like having controlled blood sugars so that I can enjoy more of life, put more of my focused attention towards all the websites and businesses and nonprofit stuff that we do, because my passion, my mission is to help others with type 1, and I'm not going to let type 1 get in the way of that. And if you've ever thought to yourself throughout this video, wait, no one's told me about that before, you're not alone. We share stuff like this all the time. I actually just got notified that we are over 900 uploads on our channel here now. Not all in the episodes for this podcast, but we've got a ton of resources. Highly suggest you hit subscribe if you haven't yet. We'd love to have you stick around, watch some videos. I am going to put an episode linked to the end of this one as well that I think you might find interesting. But let me know in the comments what you guys want to see. Definitely do subscribe. It helps the channel, but it also lets you know when new resources are available. And I truly hope that every piece of this was either enlightening or a good reminder of what you might be able to do to make blood sugars suck a little less. So hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to stick around. And I truly hope that this has inspired you to take care of yourself or to take care of somebody else that you love. Have a great rest of your week. Keep up the fight.